Welcome to the Water and Sewer Commissioners Annual Customer Meeting, June 3rd, 2025. Any public comments?
Everybody, we have time for everyone. Just take your turns. Be patient. We'll call on you.
Don't be so generous, David. I have one comment. I want to say I really appreciate how hard Josh, Steve, and everybody at the Water and Sewer are working to keep things going.
And keeping the floods at bay.
Keeping the front at bay. No, well,
We don't know what you're doing, but it's working.
Yep. You're on top of everything and it's greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Saying that, let's get right into it. Discussions of accomplishments of the past year. Who gets to pick that one?
Sure, I got a presentation
Yeah,
that we can kind of
Put together.
go through, yeah. Okay. So this is our agenda, discussion of accomplishments of past year.
You're not sharing.
Not sharing. Why would I share? After all of that.
I did the same thing last night.
Okay, we'll get over the audio visual hiccups here and for the rest of the night, let's hope. Okay, there we go. All right. So our agenda, 6 things: discussions of accomplishments of the past year, review of the logo, review of the consumer confidence report, discussion of upcoming projects and capital projects, discussion of consideration of approval of FY26 budget and rates, and discussion of appointments to the Water and Sewer Commission. So we'll start with accomplishments and highlights. Participated in the Vermont Rural Water Association apprenticeship program again last year, and I think Mike is working towards a certification right now.
He's passed his exam. He is, we're applying for his certification for his Water 3. And to finish his water apprenticeship, he still has 97 more credits to go. And he's gonna do he's decided this today that he's gonna do his distribution. So that'll give him 90 credits and he'll need to work on 7 other credits to finish his apprenticeship program. And then he'll get his distribution license, which goes along with Brad has his, they require, now the state likes to see 1 distribution license per municipality, and Brad had his, so we didn't really worry about it, but it might needs the credits to get finish his apprenticeship program. So yeah, that's Brad finished his wastewater apprenticeship, and he's been pursuing, he is taking his exam again this Friday. So he's been madly studying this week for that.
Great. And this fall will be the 2-year anniversary for Mike, so
Yeah.
kind of moving through and getting people trained, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about the 2 failing screws that we replaced this past year. One was the incline screw and one was the distribution screw in the press. And those have been giving us trouble for years, so it's great to get.
They had to.
Knock on wood, they seem
Yeah.
to be really working well. And that being said, we didn't change the whole screw, we just changed the actual screw inside the conveyor, but they're working way better than they ever have right now. And you know, it makes it a lot better for leaving the press running during the evening hours. But yeah. And we did it at a minimal cost. I mean, Giro's, they basically created a whole new screw for us, 33 feet long for the distribution one that we needed to replace. And they did it for about 3,000 under what we would have purchased it from Ford. So
I have to throw a plug in for Giroux too.
did they weld your?
They did.
Okay.
Unobtainable Saab transmission case, aluminum magnesium broke. So I brought it over there. It was my son's car. dropped it off, explained everything they needed to be done. Yeah, we can do that. It was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. He goes, we can't get to it till tomorrow, though. Is that okay? They're leaving. My son said, how much do you think that'll be, Dad? I said, I don't know, it'll be at least $75 or so. 40.
Wow.
Did a great job.
Yeah.
Amazing.
They're amazing.
That is-
They can do
They-
anything.
I have not in all my years of taking, and I started taking stuff when I was very young. In all my years, anything that was ever made out of metal, if it was broken, they have fixed it, can fix it, can create it, can make a new one. Whatever I've taken, they've been able to really
They
do
have
a
the
good job.
technology, they can rebuild it.
Yeah,
Yeah, they did beautiful work. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't even tell it was fixed.
yep,
Do they do sandblasting?
yeah.
I have some old.
Yeah, I saw that.
house I need to get sandblasted.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay,
We also had staff install over 300 new water meters. I think you're down to what, like 4 that need to be reinstalled. So that's a huge
We'll
effort.
be down to 3 Friday.
Would it help if like we all ganged up on them right?
No, they're really, the ones that are, the 3 that are left are large meters. One of them's at the church across the street. That's an 1.5 meter and I need to get a plumber,
Oh, okay.
because it's behind a furnace and
Ooh.
it's
But we
like,
just replaced those 3 furnaces.
well, it is not in an ideal spot and I just feel better about, yes, let a plumber handle it. The other one is at the Campbell's Hump Middle School. And I have since February been trying to get that one scheduled, the plumber, the school. So
Are
I
they not
think-
home?
Huh?
Are they not home?
No, we just haven't been able to schedule it on like a vacation. I think at this point, we're probably gonna end up scheduling it after they're out of school. And then the third and final one is Borden Street. And that one may be more in depth.
All those on 1 meter.
Yeah,
Oh,
we do not own any of the infrastructure in Borden Street. They own everything. They have 1 meter. It's a 2-inch meter.
So we build Champlain housing and.
Yep,
Mm.
yep. And they
Gonna
take
combine
care of
that with a
everything
curb
else.
stop?
Huh?
Are you gonna combine that with a curb stop replacement?
Well, we might have to because the last time they tried to shut it off, they couldn't shut it off.
Yeah.
And I've been kind of saving that one for last.
Yeah,
But we have all the meters and it's just a matter of scheduling now and getting cleaned up on those. The last residential meters were installed last Friday. The 2 that we are, the last 2 in the one house. I did what we said we were gonna do. We parked there at 8 o'clock in the morning. And we waited for the customer to get up and try to go to work and they scheduled with us for that Friday and we came back and did it.
should
Well
have been a cable guy.
Huh?
Should have been a cable guy.
Well,
Our car repo.
Yeah.
with the big red truck, it was hard to get out of the yard and go to work without talking to us. So,
Seriously, though, great effort. I mean, in just under a year, you did 300 new meters and completely changed the metering system. That's huge. I mean, to think about it, we were thinking about $120,000 on an
Yeah.
installation service and you guys did it.
and
With
they
no
were
staff.
projecting
Well, short
2
staff.
years.
It's great,
So,
great
yeah,
effort.
I feel really happy that we took that on and did it.
I think so.
And you're more familiar with.
Yeah,
You know where every single one is.
And really,
Yeah.
you know, it's kudos to Brad, cause he is really been good, with water meters. That's what he was doing in Shelburne, a lot of the time, and so Brad, you know, he can change, the actual meter changes probably takes him less than 10 minutes. And then the rest of the time is, you know, wiring it up and getting it set up, so. But he did a really good job, him and Mike.
Also, in the last year, we continued work on the 20-year study for the wastewater treatment facility. We prepared for and recovered from the July 2024 flood. Again, excellent work by you guys after this sort of, our, I think, 3rd flood in the year, 4th flood in the year. And you know exactly what to do to kind of batten down the hatches, get through the night, get through the flood, and then get things back online as quickly as possible. And I think one also upside of that is we now have backup parts, pump station. So if it ever happens again, we can recover a lot quicker. So kudos to Steve and the staff for building us back better than we were before. We started planning work on a flood mitigation project for the wastewater pump station and the force main under the Bridge Street Bridge. This is the $75-ish thousand planning loan that we just signed last night with the select board. So the working on projects to get those out of harm's way when the next flood comes.
Planning loan that's subsidized 100%.
100% subsidy, yes.
Yeah.
In some places, they call that a grant, but who are we to argue?
Yeah, it is. It's funny. It's structured as a loan, but yeah, I don't know why they structure this one as a loan where other ones are straight grants. It's just a different structure, but essentially for us, bottom line is the same. Just recently installed the mission monitoring system for the water system and seems to be working well, and you have potential add-ons in the future.
Yeah, we, all of us love the mission system. It gives me pretty much control over what's happening with the water when it's happening. Like if I get up in the middle of the night and I find out that it's starting to rain real hard and like projecting we're gonna have a flood, I can manually turn the pump on right from my phone and start filling the tank so that I don't have to worry that by the time the flood gets here, the tank will be full, the pump will be shut off, and I can control all that right from my phone. The add-ons that we're looking right now, we can monitor the amperage on the mixers in the tank. We know what the tank height is. We now have, at the water house, we know when the well pump is on and we know when the clear well pump is on, and we can see the cycles of those. I've asked them to give us an estimate on installing our pH meter, which has digital output and analog output that will go into the system already. It's roughly about $1,000 to set that up, and we will have, if we decide we want to do that, we then will have our pH right on the same system. We can monitor that 24 hours a day, just like we do everything else.
And those measurements you can turn into the state for a report.
Yeah, that's the ultimate goal is eventually, if we continue adding into the system, we basically got the base model that is buildable, you can build upon. And the other two things that we would build upon are a fluoride analyzer and a chlorine analyzer. And those numbers can actually be downloaded right out of the system and put onto the state report. And that's how, I mean, a lot of the systems out there are doing it. You know, that use a mission system to control. It was the first expanse into this mission cellular based system for Richmond, and I've been really happy with it. And the cybersecurity on it is really, it's in double encryption. I mean, there's almost impossible. It's kicked Michael out of it twice already for entering the wrong password.
Good.
So.
Also related to flooding, we raised the pump station control panel to protect it from flooding, and that was a FEMA mitigation project, so we'll get, I think, at least 75% of that paid back. It was about a $5,700 bill.
It was $5,700 to raise the panel. Remember, and we raised it. Basically, it was about 2.5 feet high. Now it's at 5. The bottom of the panel is at 5 feet high, and I don't. If it gets to the panel now, we got a lot more problems. The bridge is gone. I mean,
Pressure's house is gone.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So next we're moving on to the logo. The commission narrowed it down to these two choices. We did some surveying with Richmond residents and water resource company. And water resource customers. Brad looks like he likes option 2. However, the survey says, Brad, that The number one answer was in fact option one
Yeah.
from the feedback from the survey.
Did we get any
Exactly the same amount of people respond.
comments? Were they in the packet?
Because I think he sorted the whole group into Richmond resident versus non-Richmond resident, and then water sewer customer versus non-water sewer customer.
But, yeah, explain that. I'm confused because the total numbers are the same.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think what he did was he took the total 77 and said, are you Richmond resident or not?
Oh.
And that's it. And then you took your total 77, are you a customer or not?
Mhm.
So that's how he told it out, just to give us a little bit of a breakdown so that we know who's responding.
Total responses and then okay.
Yeah. There were some comments. I didn't include those in the presentation, but I did include those in the packet. So there's, and
Can't make kitty scared.
yeah, they range. It make kitty scared to, some think each logo looks too phallic, others they love the logos. There's a wide range of feedback, so.
Former eater.
I do think it brings up,
Well, yeah, I don't know. I think it was maybe former, maybe they meant to say former. Could you read the next comment? I think they're a former commissioner who,
Well, okay, I didn't resort it, it's just.
no. If you look at,
There's not, the next comment is.
no, to the right, there's comments. So there's comments in column, that's why I put it in Excel sheet, because column one is comments in column one.
Oh, okay.
And column two is comments on option two. So I think if you look to the right of that comment, it says something like, I'm a former commissioner and I like this logo.
It made me scared.
we should respond, even if it's privately, to the lady on the front porch forum who asked, like,
Ladies
who's
purple.
ladies who commented like, who's paying for this? Why do we need this? I hadn't seen anyone do that yet, but
There was somebody before her, actually.
asked that as well.
So we could talk about that right now as
Yeah,
well.
But we should
talk about.
probably somehow express that, like, and she was like, why do we need a new logo? So we should probably.
So I think that the history of why we're looking at a new logo is, if you look at the logo on Steve's shirt, it's got the fish on that.
It's outdated.
And there's no more fish there anymore. We're using both. They're not clarifiers. What are they called?
Aeration.
Both aeration
Yeah.
tanks, for their intended use. And they're both clean and operational right now. We do not intend to bring the fish back.
Well,
So
and
the idea was,
Yeah.
I just want to
I
explain
think-
it now so that people
Oh,
who's
listening.
watching this can
I
see that.
Okay.
So I know you know.
I know.
I'm doing this for the video.
Anybody who's watching.
So Steve's stepdaughter is going to school for graphic design and offered to provide some designs. She went through one round. The commission provided some feedback. She came back with these two options, which were revised from the original three, I think she gave us. And that's when the commission asked to go out to get some feedback. The idea is to not really spend much money on the logo. It's replace it as we go. So when you need a new shirt, you get a new logo. We're not buying brand new everything all at once. It isn't like a company rebranding where you would have to buy a bunch of new things. Probably some new decals for the cars, so maybe a couple $1,000s, but maybe not even that.
That's just as they get replaced, really.
I mean, the cars we might do in advance.
Yeah,
because
we haven't painted.
We're not
or
gonna
done
replace a
anything
car
with
for a
rock.
while.
I mean, that was kind of what we thought we would, I mean, a lot of people are like, what are you doing with a fire truck?
Mhm.
And I'm like, we bought this. Well, it still looks like a fire truck. So,
That's
Boy,
a,
there
hu-
are some weird comments here.
Yeah.
that's a huge raindrop hitting the round church and up
The
to.
people who were like, this is phallic, it's really phallic, I hate it, it's phallic.
It's about 5 of those comments.
So we could approve one, or if we think that we could also try again if we do think that it's too
I
phallic.
move
or
we
too
approve
whatever.
option one.
Well, there you go.
second.
Okay.
I third.
Further discussion? Is that real?
so when we started this in January, now we can order some new shirts.
Okay.
With a real second.
Wait a second, okay. Discussion? Aaron?
Calling for a vote? I'm good. I like it.
Okay, number 1. Okay.
I like number 2 better.
I do like
I'm-
number two better.
I'm-
I like the simplicity of it.
Yeah.
The water falling down on the phallic symbol there.
But
The vote is in.
The vote
the
is.
vote is in, I mean, if we're going popular vote, it's one.
And
It's one.
I do want to point out that the round church is the iconic symbol of Richmond. So
It
it's-
is, but
But it's just the top. It's a little funny, maybe.
it
Yeah.
needs a little more roof.
Yeah. No.
Okay, so Aaron voted yes.
Yes,
Yes, yes.
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 Morgan, yes. Motion passes for option 1.
All right. We have a new logo.
You know, we could get that put on frisbees too. It would fit nicely.
It would.
Fine.
It would be
Yeah.
beautiful. And it's for July 4th.
Yes, that's what I was
Alright.
thinking, have a booth up.
Just-
You know, the town of Essex Junction is, I mean, they got like $250,000 involved in getting a new logo.
So can I jump in? I think that's why people from the
Right.
corporate world ask,
Mhm.
why are we doing this? How much money do we spend? Because people spend big money on
Yeah.
logos.
And my idea was not to spend big money, but
So
to rebrand a little, you know.
speaking of money, I think we should make some sort of financial,
Disclosure.
no, contribution to the artist.
Oh,
Free t-shirt?
That,
She
that's,
did
Biscotti
it for
cookies.
free.
Biscotti
Yeah.
cookies.
so that's up to you guys.
she's still going to college?
Yes.
The contribution to help her.
Yeah, well, I mean, whatever.
Because part of my point is literally people spend quickly tens of thousands of dollars on this sort of stuff and focus groups. And we did this on the down low, so to speak,
Mhm.
you know, cheap,
Yeah.
but I think it's my personal opinion, it's worth some financial recognition to the artist. $100, something, you know, modest, but
$100 and a box of biscotti cookies.
and a t-shirt.
Oh, yeah, actually, we should give her a shirt. With our logo on it.
Okay,
All right,
$100.
Consensus?
Yeah,
Well, we need,
Okay.
do we need a
Do
motion?
we need a motion?
no, you're allowed to spend that without emotion. It's under
Sure.
the threshold.
Send her some cookies.
Josh has it.
The other thing we should say to the public is that we do allot a line item in our budget for you for your uniforms,
Right.
and they need replacing anyway,
Yeah.
and you have a whole year's worth of uniform money rolled
Right.
over essentially because we have been doing
We
this.
haven't
So,
really bought anything because
right,
we wanted to, I mean, it really came out of Brad, Mike and I thought we should update the logo.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where we started. And
Yeah.
and then, you know, Brad drew a couple of designs and when my stepdaughter was home for Christmas, I was like, hey, if you've got a minute, throw me some design. And I was blown away myself by what she did. I thought it was very professional
Mhm.
and they were really good looking. And then you guys, you know, had some input and she went back and took the time to redo them and presented us with these. So
I would add a compelling reason for me is to stop with the fish,
Mhm.
Yeah,
given our history with fish in the tank.
yeah,
no, that's an excellent point. We come back with that and say that it's no money, the only money expended is replacing, when new, wear needs to have the
Yeah.
logo. for
And the $100
$100,
like-
yeah,
And a biscotti.
recognition.
yeah.
right.
Mhm.
Okay,
all right. On
Oh,
from the
thank you.
logo,
She will.
yeah. I move on to the consumer confidence report. This is the annual report on the water quality that is given to all of the consumers in around May. So this has been mailed out to all the consumers. It's also been posted in public places, discussed in a meeting, and we'll discuss it again here. I think all the numbers are within the range. I don't know, one thing that we did spend some time talking about a bit, a couple meetings ago was the lead and copper. So do we want to expand on that? Steve, you probably best able to
Well,
explain
what
that.
Brad's here for.
Oh yeah, Brad was here. for
Brad
that.
really-
Yeah, let's let Brad do that.
Hello.
Brad.
Well, I think everyone's big thing about it was why there's any acceptance at all of lead in drinking water. And, I think it's more of one of those things where we don't have the technology yet and that sort of thing to eliminate all lead in lines. Whether it's there previously from pigtails or whatnot, there's always going to be some sort of residue, at least for the time being, until, new pipes come out or you get a whole line replacement throughout the entire town or anything like that. So that's pretty much why. I mean, they have a limit on how much you can have. It's very minimal, and we are below that range. And yeah,
And the lead test is done inside the residences. So it is also the internal plumbing of the home, which could have leaded solder in if copper pipes put in the 70s, you know, they could be leaded solder. And that's really why the tests are done in the homes.
So it's not source contamination, it's end user trace.
Correct.
exactly.
An important thing to clarify.
Yep.
Yep.
The lead is really testing more the home than the system.
Right, it's what's going into people's
Right.
bodies, so.
Just a comment because it is clear in the table at the top here for TTHM, the sample location. Maybe this would be clear, even though it makes it a jam-packed table. The second one is to sample locations, you know.
There was 10 of them.
And just then you could say 10 like end user faucets or something. To
Yeah,
make
we
it
could-
clear coming from that.
Those are accessible. All of this data comes from the state
Yeah.
contaminant lead, it's chemical contaminants in water that we
Yeah.
test for. All of it is there, and the 10 sites that we used, it states what the addresses are even.
Or even just a footnote, because when you read it, you would be inclined to think, oh, it's at the source. How come we have lead at
Yeah.
the well?
Yeah.
And if we did even just a like footnote that says, you know, samples were taken from customers' faucets, something like that.
I can definitely do that for you guys next year, and I can also leave a link to like the DEC website where they have all that information, all of our testing locations, all of our data
Nice.
from everything. So I can do
I,
that.
I will say Brad and I, when we tested for the lead and copper, we did, they basically break it down into tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and you're required to take mostly out of tier 1. And we went through the process and chose the locations according to the ones that should be tested, which always wasn't the case. So we changed a lot of the locations this year, but in doing so, we had to get it approved by the state. And what they look at, we actually had to go find the age of every house, was it renovated? Was it something done over on it? And that puts it into the 3 tiers. So we tried to take the ones that were really susceptible, and even those here in Richmond are below the level.
Good.
Nice.
Question. So the PFAS, why do we stop sampling after 2022?
So we were dinged 1 year, and then you were required to take samples for the 3 years after. And we showed, because our limit was, our ding was so low. And then the following 3 years, there was nothing. Then we go into an every 3 years
Okay,
testing.
that's right.
We're still testing for it, but we go into it. But last year, we were in a voluntary program with the EPA, which we did. Brad took samples, sent them to the EPA lab, and the EPA lab tested for, and we have a link for that too, don't we, Brad?
Yeah.
So we did extra PFAS testing. Well, actually, it was voluntary, but it went to the EPA. It's not on the state website, but we have the results for that also, which we're not.
Great, thank you.
All right.
Good report. You're lucky.
No violations this year.
We'll try harder.
Moving on to upcoming projects. So in the next year, we'll be taking the next steps in the 20-year wastewater treatment facility upgrade, which includes completing conceptual design, public outreach, and a bond vote, hopefully in March. We're also going to be working on the Tilden Ave, Bridge Street, Cochrane Road waterline replacement project, estimated at about 1.8 million. Looks like we'll probably be out to bid this fall for construction next spring. Mark?
Just a comment, 1.8 million seems like a lot of money until you look up above and say, what's the 20-year
Yeah.
wastewater treatment facility upgrade? And we're still discussing, making decisions about that. But I think we have a sort of rough estimate of what the full, replacement at current capacity plus septage would be. And just for people watching, what's that ballpark figure at this point?
I mean, I think it's in the 20 to 22 million range.
And possible to go up based on things like tariffs.
Everything is going up every
labor.
minute of every day lately. I mean,
So that's why we're talking so much about that, or will be talking so much about it, because it's big money.
quotes are now 4 to 5 days. When I call to get a quote, you have to respond 4 to 5 days. It can change.
Crazy.
But it's not 30 days anymore. It's
No.
45. And two, just to comment as well as thinking about, this repair is something that should last us 50 years.
20.
These pipes.
Oh, these pipes, yes. Yeah. The pipe were good. No.
20-year.
I thought you were talking about the upgrade at the plant.
Yeah, I know, I realize that's why.
I mean, the upgrade at the plant is, you'll have another one in 20 years.
Right.
That's the schedule.
Yeah. But this is something that's 50 plus years, so it's a little bit of a reprieve in the sense that.
Yeah.
Well, I would say more globally that when we first joined the Water Sewer Commission, or at least when I did, there were a lot of lines that were leaking a lot.
Yeah.
And there were frequently leaks with $20,000 or $30,000 repairs, Sunday morning, somebody's got to show up.
Sunday morning in the middle of the winter.
So after the line was fixed, we still had the leaky, broken, cobbled together line. But we were out $30,000 to make it stop leaking for a little while.
We've had 2 repairs, one Tilden.
And that was a total of $20,000.
Was it the 2? Yeah, well.
They were roughly 10,000 apiece.
But
Which is-
part of this is to get ahead.
Yes.
And you're gonna pay money, but it's like buying a new car.
Yeah.
So the new car, you anticipate it's going to work without flaw.
There are water systems, municipal systems that I talk to that routinely
Barry,
$200,000 in the budget just for water main breaks.
and they spend it plus.
And last year, if you watch the evening news,
So what?
Plattsburgh was on there almost every other week with a water main break. And they had one water main break that cost about $180,000, they said,
To patch.
to find once they got digging.
Jeez.
It just, they couldn't find it.
Interesting.
So,
Thank you.
Other upcoming projects is upgrade of the pump house control panel. If you want to speak to that a little bit, Steve. It's in
So
rough shape.
the actual control panel in our water house is a complete mess. It is just a cobble of wires. When you open it up, the wires all just fall out. Nothing is labeled. I asked Dan Pratt, the electrician who builds control panels, what the estimate to replace that control panel so that when somebody comes, they actually have a wire diagram and everything, and it's would eliminate time.
Yeah.
You know, when the water house is down for some reason, it's time crunch. So he roughly gave me an estimate of about $15,000 to bring that panel into the modern century.
Out of the Stone Age.
Is this up next to the tank?
No, it's actually in the water house.
Okay.
Yep. And anytime you guys want to take a tour, I'll gladly take you over there and show you. I
That's-
think we should take a look sometime.
That's by the round church is the one.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And is that in the 20-year study?
No, that is water. The 20-year study is just wastewater.
Okay.
They don't do that in water. They assume that you'll keep up with everything that's going along.
We also got install the Borden Street water shut off, which we discovered we don't know where that is,
Yeah.
so we'll install a new one that services that development. And installation of a new influent pump, I think we'll have a recommendation of a pump probably at the next commission meeting and installation shortly thereafter.
About how much is that? Couple hundred grand or?
No,
Oh,
it was in the 40s
I
for the pump,
forget, yeah.
and we're gonna do the installation ourselves.
Oh,
Is that the Swedish pump?
It is not my
Okay.
choice. The Swedish pump was, was it 60?
I don't have the numbers.
Yeah,
memorized. I don't. I barely looked
There
at
were
it.
two pumps that were within $200 of each other. And then the Swedish pump actually came in, the flight pump actually came in about 2,000 over that.
Hmm.
And my choice is not the flight pump based on the fact that getting parts are a pain in the butt because we have some flight mixers and it's, 16 weeks to get parts. And that's okay because they're being used in the wastewater plant, but in the water end of things, in the influent pump is not something that you want to be waiting for. Right.
Hmm.
Nothing happens in our system without those influent pumps.
Right.
And I will remind you that we are operating and have been operating for 2 years
Mm.
now
Hmm.
on a free pump that was given to us because we did not have one.
And he just had it lying around.
Huh?
And he just happened to have it in the backup.
We got
He
lucky.
Phil Laramie had taken that pump out of a place. He felt that the pump they upgraded it.
Mhm.
He felt that the pump was in good enough condition to keep. It's oversized for our use, which is one reason why we've been able to manage the floods well.
Hmm.
But that pump is it is really trouble-free. And
Are we gonna keep it as a spare just in case?
I don't really want to get rid of it.
Not if it's working.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, some other things that we've done that we didn't, we're gonna clean the digester out again. That is the one thing that we feel, I mean, there's probably close to 4 feet of grit in there. And when I say grit, it is gravel.
Right.
well,
And we try not to suck it up, but the other night, some got into the line and got into the press. And it caused the press not to run very happily. And it left a mess for us to clean up the next morning, but that's on the schedule. We've cleaned the aeration tank out and we're doing some maintenance on the diffusers right now. We've cleaned all of the other tanks ourselves this year. We basically, everything we've cleaned has been ended up into the digester. So now we need to clean out the digester.
where does that go then?
That has to go to either a landfill or P&P, who has cleaned it out for us in the past, have taken it to Um. All Cycles Recycling has a place that they have a gravel pit or something where they lay it out, they dry it, and then they scrape it up and they dispose of it. Costs less once it's dry
Right,
than it's all wet.
pay by the pound.
We do pay by the ton.
All right,
Definitely drivers wave to me.
are we ready to move on to the budget? Great. So I've got some slides that sort of hit some, I guess, highlights of the budget. In the water department, operational spending is decreasing by about $10,000. In the wastewater, it is increasing by about $37,000. So about a 2.7% decrease in water, 4.3% increase in wastewater. Funds raised from water and wastewater customers is increasing by $398, so basically flat in water. Why am I getting feedback? It's weird.
Is that some feedback?
Do you hear that?
Yeah, I do.
All of a sudden, the gremlin is back.
Has somebody got muted who oughtn't to have?
You think so? I don't
Morgan,
know.
is your
Jay
mic
and
on?
Morgan, are you guys muted?
Hello, hello.
I don't
There's
see
a- I
it
didn't
right
hear
there.
it.
No, oh, it might just be a speaker thing. Maybe it'll go away. I know it's still there a
Are there
little
more
bit.
people to the right?
It looks like Morgan's not muted.
It looks like you're unmuted, Morgan.
Yeah, but Morgan might be not connected to audio.
Yeah, I'm not connected.
Oh, well, that'll
I
do
don't
it.
know.
So, all right, well, let's just keep going, I guess. So funds raised from the water and wastewater customers, water is increasing by about $398, basically flat. Wastewater is increasing by $38,000, or about 10%. Notable increases in water and wastewater included salaries due to the operator and training that we were speaking of earlier. Mike, that is really annoying.
Coming out of
Now,
budget.
now I'm hearing it. Now I heard it.
So,
There's something, yeah, there is something that's close. Maybe it's someone close by just coming in or.
Maybe mute everybody. except-
yeah, I'll try that.
I just got out of my Zoom.
No, there's nobody else on the left or the right. Oops, what did I just do?
It doesn't appear to be happening right now.
Yeah,
Well, since Morgan moved that mic.
maybe that was it.
Yeah.
The mic? All right, so the increases in water and wastewater combined, salaries are going up. We're gonna have, once Mike hits his 2-year anniversary, he goes up a couple of grades, so there'll be an increase to the pay rate there, but I think that's a success story that he stayed for 2 years and gotten his certifications and continuing to grow in the industry and learn more and needs to be rewarded for that. Also, increase in general health insurance costs. I think they all went up about 10% across the board. So those are some of the increases that affect both departments. Decreases in water include the elimination of the water reservoir gap loan. That was about $26,000 per year in payments, and we now do not have to pay that in FY 26. Increases in wastewater, we've got some nominal increases in the treatment facility repair. We increased that from 12,000 to 15,000, and biosolids facility repair from 10 to 15,000. I will say that sort of overall the budget, there really wasn't any like large level increase other than sort of the things that we just went over. There wasn't anything huge that we had to add or anything that was really significant. Water unrestricted funds, these are funds that are not committed to a reserve account, and it's basically the culmination of a surplus over the years in water and wastewater. So in water, it would be if like we had a vacancy for a year, you didn't spend that money, or there was more money coming in revenue somehow, that would create an increase in these funds. So the end of fiscal year 24 balance was $156,000. We had projected changes in FY 25 of a net decrease of about $8,000. That includes water line service inventory reimbursement of about $39,000. The water system monitoring system we paid for $15,000. We had about $1,000 in flood expenses, $15,000 to upgrade the control panel and the pump house, and excavation on Borden Street. We expect to hopefully do that in this fiscal year for $15,000. That would then put us at the end of this fiscal year, which is actually just a few weeks away, as we're here in June. A projected year-end balance of $147,000. The goal that we've sort of kept at is about 15% of the next year's budget in unrestricted funds. The projected balance for this year is 38% of FY 26 budget. But so we have a little bit more than you might like, but it's never a bad thing to have cash on hand, and it doesn't It doesn't go anywhere. It stays there in unrestricted funds. So if we do have an unexpected water line break or something comes up, we do have these funds available to us. Similar story in wastewater, same idea here, wastewater unrestricted funds. The end of last year's balance was $311,000. Projected changes, we expect about a net decrease of $108,000 by the end of FY '25. You can see we do have some reimbursements from the 20-year study, the Gateway Engineering reimbursements, but we had July 24 flood expenses of $163,000, which is the main driver of this decrease. 20-year study expenses of about $20,000, flood mitigation study expenses, $78,000. That will come back to us in the future, and the cleaning of the digester of $15,000. So I guess the good news is that these larger expenses, we will be reimbursed for the 24 flood, probably in FY '26. We will get reimbursed for the 20-year study and the flood mitigation, and the cleaning of the digester one won't get reimbursed for, but a lot of those bigger ticket items will be reimbursed in the future. So that puts us at a net balance of about $203,000 projected for the end of this fiscal year. It's recommended to keep at least 15% of that in next year's budget. We're at 22% of the FY '26 budget. With the upcoming 20-year study, we could use some funds probably to start to go towards that. And again, same thing, any unexpected emergencies that need repair, we can have the money for that. Before we move on to capital projects and how they affect, I'm gonna get back. How they affect the budget. Is there any questions on the base budget so far? Or anything that I didn't mention that I should have that you guys can remember from previous meetings?
That's a far.
Okay. So this is a summary of capital projects that are in the budget and the loan payment associated with them. So we still have a 2014-15 water storage tank and chlorine project, was about a $1.5 million project. We're still paying $37,000 per year on that. The East Main Street project of 1.2 million, we're paying $25,000 per year. This is after a subsidy, final payment in 2047. Morgan, if you have a question.
Those are outstanding amounts, or that was the initial amount?
That was the initial amount, and then, so we still have about $37,000 per year until 2048 and $25,000 per year until 2047. So those are longer term loans. We do have some shorter ones as we get down the line here, but yeah, we've got another 20 years ahead of us on those ones there. The Jericho Road loan is a little shorter term, about 7 years out, $33,000 per year that we have to put into the budget. Continuing in water, we had the 2020 Bridge Street Waterline Replacement Project. This is Upper Bridge Street and the bridge crossing. About $10,000 per year, final payment way out there in 2060. And the 2022 Bridge Street Waterline Replacement, the middle section, so right here in front of the town center building, about $2,000 per year, again, final payment in 2062. The financial, that this, you guys,
Or just
did I spell something wrong?
No.
Thinking about 2062.
Yeah. Yeah.
Will we still be using water?
Yeah, right.
Our taps and ketchup will come out.
There you go. What is it? Brondo, it's what plants crave.
Oh, God.
Mediocrity. So then, same exercise in wastewater. We have the 2006 treatment plant upgrades totaling 3.7 million. So let's talk about our 20-year loans. This is our 20-year projects. That's $22,000 per year final payment. Next fiscal year, just in time for us to get a new payment.
That's
It
actually significant.
Looks out nicely, doesn't it? Although that $3.7 million total from the project 20 years ago looks actually very nice. If we could get that price again, I would take that. We had a planning loan for, this is an East Main Street planning project. It's $12,000 per year, final payment 2 years away. 2010, we did sewer lining and manholes totaling $445,000, $14,000 per year, final payment in 7 years in 2032. And the Jericho Road loan, you'll saw that in the water. It was a combined water, wastewater, and highway project, but the wastewater portion of that is about $26,000. And the final payment, again, about 7 years out. And that is it for loans. Before we get on to rates, any questions on loans and payments that we have to make?
I guess as comment, I guess as we think about our 20-year upgrade is to these loans that are sunsetting, how much less are they gonna have to pay, right?
Hmm.
Maybe, because by the time we do the upgrades, it's gonna be we're 3 years out? Something like that, so. I'm not saying that that sounds great, but at least it will feel a little better knowing that we have a, whatever.
Yeah.
$1,000 less a year in payments.
Well,
Ups and downs.
it
yeah.
is a good point because by the end of 27 and 28 will be what, $34,000 less just by these two. And then there's a,
Previous page.
well, yeah, those are way out. I just looked at 26, 26, that's not gonna be a big factor. But these here, that's another $40,000 by 2032. So there'll be a couple of years there where it will be pretty high, but when you get to 2032, you'll have those dropping off.
Right,
So that's a good point. So
the only comment.
actually, I wonder,
Wasn't there one that we're getting done right now though, too?
Yeah, that was on the
Finished it,
water.
right.
that was the water gap
Oh.
loan, yeah.
But still,
Water.
people pay one bill and
Right.
the difference in water and wastewater is largely lost on the ratepayer, right?
True, true. I do wonder, and this is just sort of a spur of the moment thought, is there any way could we pay these down early with unassigned funds and get those off the books before we put the 20-year?
There may be an
Fine.
early payoff penalty. We should check.
Yeah,
But we should look into that and see, because if it's worth it, it might help us get some of the money freed up, but
To level out.
to level out a little bit better, or at least make the spike a little
Right.
shorter. So some things to think about.
Yeah.
So the way this translates into rates is an increase in residential rates, decrease in commercial fixed rate, increase in commercial metered. And this is for water, and then a slight increase in school fixed and metered. I think one of the biggest drivers here is when you look at water usage, last year it was very, very high. And it was smaller the previous year and smaller this year. There was a leak at the wastewater treatment facility, which I think contributed a lot to that spike in the usage from last year. They fixed that leak, so the data we have from the past year is a lot lower, and they've been working really hard on conservation over there. So that actually meant that some of the usage got sort of like, so the metered usage sort of comes down for commercial government and it goes up for school and residential, just because of the way it sort of, we basically we allocate more of the revenue to be raised to the higher users. So if commercial goes down, you're gonna allocate more revenue to residential. So that sort of helped skew the rates a little bit in this one. Another thing we did this year was we based this on 95% usage from the previous year, assuming there's gonna be some conservation, and Steve finds a new leak pretty much every week, it seems like, in a home. So we're able to quickly catch those leaks. So it's reasonable to expect that water usage might actually be less next year than it was this previous year.
Plus we had the 2 restaurants, right, that were not operating.
That's also a good point. Yeah, they're
All the
literally not
ones.
operating.
you were actually coming
Yeah, but
from last chef of the Big Spruce has bought the place.
so they might come back online. But right now, I mean, we're already in the usage period that we'll be using when we set the rates for next year. So they've been dormant now for those 3 months and potentially another month or so. But yeah, so the restaurants, the new meters, I think we'll see a shift in usage next year as well. Similar over on wastewater, although this one I think went up because we had more expenses in wastewater. So you see a little bit more across the board increase for residential, commercial, and school, because we do have a larger budget in wastewater. Questions, comments on budget and rates before we move on to, actually, we need to consider approving the budget and rates as well.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the budget and rates.
I'll second.
Further discussion? No further discussion, calling for a vote, please state your vote.
Karen, I.
David, I.
Aren't I?
Shane, aye.
Okay, aye, motion passes.
All right.
I have one other thought, and I'm sorry I didn't raise this in advance of the meeting, but one thing we might look at is people can get lost in the tables is like, what is an average user in this year pay versus next year based on the combination of water and wastewater rates?
So I've got that. So this, what I did with this one here is if you look at residential, so this is assuming everybody's using the exact same amount of water.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's somewhat average. So right now, your FY 25 combined bill, this is total combined, is about $917 per year. That then goes up to 1,041 for your average residential. For
13.5, so.
yeah, so it's an increase of $124, 13.5. Commercial and government, your bill goes down from 3,100 to 2,900, 7.7% decrease. And the school, 19,000 up to 20,000, about a 4.7% increase. And again, that's just assuming everybody's using the exact same amount of water.
And that's combined.
That is, those numbers are combined at the bottom. Yeah, the shaded numbers here, and that is combined. Yep. Everything now. All right.
Right.
And I did forget to bring the rate sheet for you guys to sign, so I'll just bring that to the next meeting if that works for you all. All right.
Made circles in my own, but we could sign
Yeah, we could. As long as it doesn't say draft, I might still say draft. All right,
Oh, it does, you're right.
that's all right. And then the next thing we have to discuss is open seats on the Water and Sewer Commission.
Harry, I'm going, so.
So,
I feel like I signed up last year.
the
Isn't it 2 years?
No, it's a 1 year. So the commission has 5 seats on it. 3 of them are reserved for select board members and 2 are reserved for customers of the water and or wastewater system. The board has, I think, 45 days after the annual meeting, the select board does, to appoint those 5 seats. If there's not 2 takers for the customer seats, then a select board member, a 4th select board member has to fill that customer seat. Morgan gave me his letter of interest just before the meeting, so we do have 1 letter of interest in.
Yeah, I guess I'm in.
You'll give us that. Okay, great. So we bumped this out to June 11th. So if you want to give me the letter, and I can send you the form that quickly fill up with the letters, the letter works as well. And then we'll discuss it at the next meeting for water and sewer and have the select board make appointments later that night. All right. Well, thank you both, both of you for your service as well as the select board members. All right, that's all she wrote. Oh, actually, I'm going to give a thank you to Steve, Brad, Mike, and Nate for some of the best quality drinking water in the state. They do an excellent job over there. I know Morgan mentioned that at the beginning of the meeting, and they definitely do a wonderful job. Thank you guys for your tireless efforts.
And I would like to thank you guys for your support and what we're doing and making sure we have the ability to do a good job. It's important. Not always has it been a good relationship, but I feel we have a good relationship. And that's what we need. At least it's a working relationship.
I second that motion.
I thought you were gone.
I ain't leaving.
Should do have a customer on the thing though, by the way, Becky is here.
All right.
Becky, any questions?
All right. There's that.
Fine,
We're out.
guys.
Great. Okay.
Does Becky want my seat?
Do we need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Please state your vote.
Aaron, I.
David, I.
All right, Jay, I.
Aye, motion passes, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.